Welcome back to Ottawa Exposed. We've got a new look today, and we're experimenting with some graphics here and having a great time as always. Really want to welcome you back. And what's been happening since we met last? Well, China. We got a lot to talk about China today. But I've got an article in Substack, which we just published, and you can see by the ticker at the bottom of the page there. See me at davidkrayden.substack. You really might enjoy this because guess what happened late last night on the Prime Minister's the PMO website, okay? They put out a news release announcing who this eminent Canadian is who's going to be something called a special rapporteur. Probably the most pretentious name I've ever heard of. And it's David Johnston. Now you might say, yeah, I remember David Johnston. Didn't he used to be the Governor General and Stephen Harper appointed him? So therefore he must be kind of like an opposition guy. And Trudeau's being really fair. And he's being really transparent and honest here, isn't he? No, he's not. Not at all. Because David Johnston has been a lifetime member of the Ottawa establishment and can bend liberal and can bend conservative depending upon which way his bread is buttered. So as I say in this column today, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll read one thing. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced late Wednesday just who is the eminent Canadian is chosen to head his farce of an inquiry into Chinese election interference as something called a special rapporteur. It's former Governor General David Johnston who will bear this utterly pretentious title and wear this disgraceful crown. And Trudeau has done it again. He's tried to pass off a friend of the family as someone who's nonpartisan. So I want you to watch this montage here of just how friendly David Johnston has been with Justin Trudeau and the Trudeau family.
I've known the Governor General since I was a kid. From visiting him and his daughters when he was principal at McGill, to spending time on the ice or the slopes at their family home in the Laurentians. And I've always known him to be a man of strength, intelligence, and compassion. But getting to know someone as a family friend or a friend of your father's is very different from having the honor of working alongside them. So it has been a true honor since the beginning of my mandate to come to know the Governor General not only as a friendly neighbor, quite literally, but as a man of integrity who embodies the principles for which our country stands.
Yeah, isn't that nice? They were so friendly. You know, spending time skiing together and family reunions, having a great time. It's not going to wash, Mr. Prime Minister. Not going to wash. And you know who else Mr. Johnston is a friend of? He's a friend of the Chinese, of the Chinese government, of the communist Chinese government. You were an old friend of the Chinese people, Johnston told Xi Jinping. And he said, you know what he said? He said it during his last trip there, the last trip I'm aware of, in 2017. It was at the end of his tenure as Governor General. He said, it's wonderful to be back in China. I feel I've returned home. He thinks China is like home. Sorry, China is not like home. It's more like Soviet Russia and Nazi Germany, where they put people in concentration camps, where they censor everything. They try to control the way you think. They control people's lives. That's not just like home, or at least it's not like the home we want here, is it? It's like the home Justin Trudeau is trying to create for us here in Canada. But we're not going to accept that. In fact, David Johnston, it sounds an awful lot like that younger Justin Trudeau who was once asked, which country outside of Canada do you most admire? And he said he admired that basic dictatorship of China because it could turn its economy around on a dime. Yeah, and it can also get rid of its political opponents on a dime by throwing them in the concentration camps or just murdering them, as it's done to the Uyghur population. Absolutely incredible that he's made this decision. Absolutely incredible. And will he get away with it? I wonder, because, whether you want to call this guy a special rapporteur or a government rapper, which is really what he's going to, and I spell that R-A-P-P-E-R, it's really not what the Canadian people are asking for and should demand, which is a full public inquiry. And I'm sorry, David Johnston's not going to offer a full public inquiry, and it's not going to be an unbiased one or a nonpartisan one. He's a friend of Trudeau, and he's a friend of China. So watch what kind of results do you think we're going to get from a person who is situated in those terms, in that context? Probably not one that's critical of Justin Trudeau or the Chinese Communist government. So I find this absolutely outrageous. And incidentally, we heard some interesting remarks this week from Conservative Party of Canada leader Pierre Poilievre. He was talking about exactly why Chinese interference is not just monetary. It's about threats and intimidation. I just want you to listen to this.
I think Justin Trudeau has inspired a lot of suspicion by his refusal to, one, answer questions about his knowledge of Beijing's interference to help him in two successive elections. Leaked CSIS and PCO documents now show that Beijing worked to help elect Justin Trudeau. That is an accepted fact. He doesn't even deny it. But he kept it hidden until courageous whistleblowers at CSIS released it for him. And now he refuses a public inquiry. I think Canadians of all political backgrounds are asking, what has Justin Trudeau got to hide? And furthermore, why hasn't he protected Chinese Canadians? Here in British Columbia, we know that Chinese Canadians came under intimidation by the People's Republic of China government. They were threatened. There were times when conservative candidates would knock on a door and the person answering it would say, can we go into the backyard and leave our phones behind so that we can talk without being surveilled by the regime in Beijing? I think it is disgraceful that the Prime Minister knew this and did absolutely nothing. He kept it covered up, and to this day will not even tell us how much money the Liberal Party got in donations that were funneled, clandestine donations, to his party. So if we want to restore faith in our democracy, we have to answer the questions and bring in transparency so Canadians know what happened and we get direct action to make sure it never happens again. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Poilievre. But do you think we're going to get the answers we need from David Johnston? Do you think we're going to get any of those answers without a full public inquiry? I don't believe so, and I don't think most Canadians believe so either. And you know what? I don't think most of Justin Trudeau's caucus, or even his cabinet, think so. And they are pressuring him. I'm hearing this behind the scenes. They are pressuring Justin Trudeau to have that public inquiry because it's the last resort. They're getting very skittish about running under his very unsteady arm in any future federal election. And they know it, the gig and the jig might be up for Justin Trudeau. Even if he has a full public inquiry, I don't think it's going to go well for him. And I think the end result is going to be the defeat of the Liberal government. But the only chance they have of clearing this up, and without going further and further into this abyss, this hole, is to have a public inquiry. And I think most Liberals have enough sense to know that. My old friend John McKay, a Liberal MP from the Toronto area, was interviewed last week, and quite fascinating. You know, he said it's not just about the election. He says it's about the banks, it's about the universities, it's about the Confucius Society, it's about how much influence China has grabbed in this country. This is a Liberal MP. saying this. And you increasingly see Liberal MPs voicing their concern openly because they know Justin Trudeau is in trouble. And maybe they're beginning to realize that Justin Trudeau is responsible for all this trouble because of the corruption in his government. And he's walked away from scandal after scandal, whether it's the personal scandals of performing blackface for half of his life and then having the gall to call everybody else a racist, or whether it's the SNC-Lavalin scandal or the We Charity scandal, which were professional scandals in his tenure as prime minister. But he's been Teflon ever since his election. He's walked all through this, but he's not going to emerge from this Chinese interference scandal unscathed. He is going to be wearing this. And I'm sorry he can't pass this off on David Johnston. Anyway, I'm sure you've heard enough about China for now because it's going to be coming at us every day. I did want to discuss one other thing, and that's a very interesting overture from, once again, Pierre Poilievre, the opposition leader, official opposition leader. He's talking about suing Big Pharma, the huge pharmaceutical companies, for their role in allowing people to be addicted to opioids. He's talking about $55 billion in a lawsuit. And I want you to listen to this.
A Poilievre government will hold them accountable. I will launch a massive series of lawsuits amounting to over $40 billion in claims. We will join British Columbia's lawsuit in order to recover the federal health costs that have resulted from Big Pharma's dirty and disgusting actions against our communities. We will launch a separate federal lawsuit to recover money that the federal government has had to spend on borders, Indigenous programs, policing, treatment, and other costs associated with this crisis. The people who profited from this misery should be the ones to pay the bill. It's about bringing home accountability and bringing home hope. We can transform the hurt that they caused into the hope that people need. Behind me, we have hope. We have the people who've demonstrated the courage to be clean, sober, and proud. Their families rallied to them. Their communities stepped up with programs of detox, counseling, inpatient treatment. Neighboring Alberta, they've doubled the number of treatment beds, which has lowered the overdose rate and begun to save lives. In other words, we know what we need to do. We need to get people off the streets and into treatment so that we can bring them home drug-free. And a Poilievre government will do that. We will sue Big Pharma, and we will make them pay the price of a massive surge in recovery and treatment programs that will save the lives of our brothers, sisters, friends, and neighbors. Hope is possible, but it requires accountability. And a Poilievre-led government will deliver both that accountability and that hope. Thank you very much to the incredible people who are here today for your amazing courage. You are now an inspiration to people, to literally thousands of people who are going through what you have survived. You have demonstrated that it is possible to turn your lives around and to live drug-free lives, to support your communities and your family. You have demonstrated incredible courage. Let's make more stories like this. Let's help people recover. Let's give them hope. Let's bring it home. Your home, my home, our home, Canada. Thank you.
Now, Poilievre also talked about his opposition to supervised injection sites, which have proliferated across Canada, but started in Vancouver, and now they have about 5 of these horrible institutions where addicts are allowed to shoot up heroin and are assisted in doing so. People say, oh, it's saving their lives. No, it's keeping them addicted. It's perpetuating addiction. These are not safe injection sites, as some liberals have called them. Yes, they are supervised, But all they do is perpetuate addiction. And Poilievre has said, pull the funding from those and put it into recovery centers. That's the answer. People need to recover from their addictions, from alcohol to opioids to heroin. They need to recover. They do not need to be encouraged to continue in their habits. That's not what's needed. And I applaud Poilievre for saying this. And you know, he's talking $40 billion in a lawsuit. That could be just the beginning, because Big Pharma has profited off of people's pain. They claim that they're eliminating or reducing pain with their drugs, but all they're doing is increasing it. And will they be challenged in other areas, such as the chemical castration industry, where teenagers are being destroyed? Are they going to be asked to explain their role in vaccines that adverse effects on people? This could amount to a massive lawsuit, and it could really amount to a massive accountability lesson for these companies that are infecting the world with greed. And they have done that, and they've used health epidemics to get rich and richer. And I despise the people who are working as public relations for these companies, justifying their actions. And they're going to be held to account for what they did. But I applaud Poilievre for going after these pharmaceutical companies who have made money off of people's misery. And it's time for that to stop. So I want to move to my last subject today, and that's my column in Human Events this week, which is not up yet, but it will be. And it talks about, where is the NDP going in all this? Where is the NDP going in their alliance with the Liberals? Because I tell you, it looks pretty shaky right now. It looks extremely shaky, because the problem for Jagmeet Singh is that he has been a willing accomplice of the Trudeau government all during the time he's been allied with it. And, you know, he'll go home at night and he'll tweet out some mean things about Justin Trudeau, but he's back in question period the next day, lobbing the softball questions at Justin Trudeau. So he's asking himself right now, am I going to be held responsible for this Chinese election interference? Even though I really had nothing to do with it. But I have propped up the Liberal government. I've propped up Justin Trudeau. And if you look at a recent by-election in Mississauga, the NDP got wiped out. They were like a fourth party, not a third party. And they'd done quite well in the previous election. But there was a by-election in last December. Liberals won it heartily with 51% of the vote. Conservatives did not too well. But the NDP were demolished. And that, believe me, sent shivers through the spines of socialists everywhere, because they're saying, are we getting wiped out by our alliance with the Liberals? And are we losing our core blue-collar supporters to the Conservatives? Because what happened when the Freedom Convoy came to Ottawa, when the protesters came here to Ottawa? It was the Conservative Party that supported them. It was Pierre Poilievre who went out and met with them, walked with them, discussed the issues with them. It was Justin Trudeau who ran out of town, and it was Jagmeet Singh who criticized them as being some sort of populist hordes. Well, those populist hordes were composed of a lot of blue-collar workers, not just the truckers, but there were electricians and mechanics and people who do the work that we usually think of as blue-collar, and they used to be associated with the New Democratic Party. It's now increasingly associated with the Conservative Party because they are sick to death of the NDP's woke policies, the navel-gazing. They're sick of that, and they want sound economic policy. They want less regulation, lower taxes, and they're not enthused about worrying about this climate change catastrophe that's supposedly coming in 10 years. They're more worried about putting food on the table, about inflation, and about staying out of a war with Russia, just to name a few. But Jagmeet Singh is between a rock and a hard place here. He's on a town hall tour, as is Pierre Poilievre, and as is Justin Trudeau. They're all on a town hall tour. But you know what it looks like? It looks like they've started the election campaign or right now. And Jagmeet Singh has to come back to Ottawa next week and decide whether he is going to be an opposition leader or he's going to be part of this unholy alliance with the Liberal Party. And I think it's already too late for Jagmeet Singh. He has dithered away his time in Ottawa. He has propped up a Liberal government that really has done very little for the Canadian people. And clearly, the bottom of his support has fallen out. Some of it's gone to the Liberals, but a lot has gone to the Conservatives. And I don't think he's left with much. He has destroyed the NDP. He's destroyed his own party by making stupid and rash decisions that were not based even on the interest of his party, but certainly not on the interest of his country and on Canada. He made decisions that were contrary to both of these entities. And he's going to pay the price. There's no question about that. So as he goes to town halls, I expect he's hearing from people, get out of that, so this faux coalition, be an opposition party, and demand that Justin Trudeau have a public inquiry and make that demand contingent upon supporting the Liberal budget, or otherwise they pull the plug. That's the best political advice I could give Jagmeet Singh. I know he would never listen, but that's the best advice I could possibly give him. Be an opposition leader, demand a public inquiry, and personally, I don't think he shouldn't support the budget in any way, no matter how this turns out. But he should be up there demanding a public inquiry, or else you lose our support. Anyway, that's all the time we have for Ottawa Exposed today. I want to thank you for joining us again. You've been faithful listeners and watchers and viewers. This is our 14th episode. We're going to continue to provide you with the inside information of how things are going here in the nation's capital, the capital of corruption, Ottawa. And I'm there to find out for you what's important and what's happening behind the scenes and where we're going as a country. So I want to thank you again for being with us. I'm David Krayden, the host of Ottawa Exposed. Please read my work in Substack, Human Events, and in the Post Millennial. And I thank you for listening today.